I think the best title for this month's wrap-up is Do I Even Like Books? That fits with how March and all of 2026 has been going, really, for reading. I don't understand. I have my stats before we get into the individual thoughts of the books that I filmed nearish to when I was finishing them, and then the last thoughts on the last ones I finished. If you saw my March TBR game, I rolled 8 times, and of those 8, we finished 4 books. Not even those original that were picked, but we'll get into that later. The highest rated book of last month was a 4-star. There's only one 4-star. And that was the substitution book. But the average was about 3.5 stars. So there wasn't any awful ones. I did DNF a book. Let's talk about should we talk about the in progress? No, I talk about the in progress at the end, though I do feel quite accomplished for one of us in progress. I do. And also I'll have my unboxing at the end of the video too. Let's go ahead and just talk about the soft DNF, because I can talk about that here. That would be Rings of Fate. Yeah, we're going to consider that maybe if my library eventually gets an audiobook. I just got really to the point where I never wanted to pick it up throughout the month of March. Like, it never had the urge to pick it up. And I paused my Kindle or stopped my Kindle Unlimited subscription, so it's not just going to be sitting there in my library. Into my book thoughts of the month. March the 4th, we have finished our first book. Well, okay, today's the 5th. That would be The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman, the first in, does it have a series name? Is it the Thursday Murder Club series? I don't know. It was a 3.5-star read. Getting the audiobook from the library was a great choice. Do I wish that maybe it had a full cast audio, which maybe somewhere it does, but my library didn't have it? Or at least 2 people? Yeah, a little bit. One interesting thing that I noticed pretty much right away, words were changed. I don't know if it's because there were different editions of the book, maybe? Because they're having different editions, even though this only published in 2020. Words were different. And at first I thought, okay, maybe they just did British to American idioms different. Because some things, sure. But then later in the book, a whole name was different. And I was like, that's weird. I don't know if it was just a pronunciation thing or if they changed the name there too. Because one of them, he starts the name with a C, or the narrator starts the name with a C. I can't remember how it was now. And in the book, it's Demir. The other one was Gianni, or Turkish Gianni. That was the character, and they were kind of looking for him. In the physical copy, it's printed as Johnny. Is that how Johnny said in other places? Like, really? I would have assumed to open the copy and find it starting with a G and spelled differently, because I feel like it is in some places. Who can say? Okay, that's not the point though. Just that there were differences. There were differences. Sometimes whole sentences would be rearranged. Still the same words, just in a different order. I shouldn't do that with this microphone, sorry. And then sometimes things were just completely left out. Some sentences were just cut. So, different editions probably. Oh well. Did I say it was a 3.5 stars? I feel like I already said that. You're following 4 characters mostly, as they are all septuagenarians at the something crossing retirement village. Like, it's a whole little village. But you're following these 4 characters. Joyce Meadowcroft, who was a former nurse, and she sounds like she's a newer resident to the place. Then you meet Elizabeth Banks, maybe, who did something classified in her previous life before their age. And she's not allowed to talk about it, but constantly dropping little things about it. Like, she still has a valid tank license, apparently. Then there is Ron Ritchie, who was a union leader who went to a lot of rallies and protests, I feel like, to stop things, operations stopping and things like that. So he is very well known for that. Called him Red Ron back in the day. And then there is Ibrahim, maybe it's Arif. He was a psychiatrist. And he still actually sees some of his old patients and stuff. They just come to regularly talk to him, things like that now. They know he's retired and stuff, and they come to the village and talk with him. It's kind of nice because they trust him, so they still want to talk to him. So you're following mostly them. There is one other that I feel like appears a lot. 2. There's Ian Bentham, who is the owner of this retirement village and things like it. And then there is Father Matthew Mackey. Him you will see from quite a few times as well. And then various other characters that just give context to things. And you get small scenes from them as well. The 4 of them, though, they meet on Thursdays in the jigsaw room to solve cold cases. Because that's what they want to do. Because of what Elizabeth's previous job was, and her best friend Penny was a cop. And so they kind of started by going over Penny's old cases, trying to, solve them to their satisfaction because people were never caught. Joyce gets brought in, and then literally a case pretty much falls into their lap as someone connected to the retirement village is murdered. And so the Thursday Murder Club is determined to go solve the case. And hijinks, and oh my god, now there's 2 cats. It was just a very interesting time. I thought it was quite beautiful in the ways of which it talks about the relationships, like with the spouses, with children, how much time is left, all of those things. It was quite beautifully done. However, I don't think I'm going to continue this series. We're coming to you with full batteries for this update in the mic, in the camera, in the mic attachment. I'm very impressed with myself for this. Okay, so I DNF'd my ARC. Well, it's soft DNF. If my library happens to get the audiobook, I will totally try it again. Or maybe I just have to be in a better mood mindset because I could not deal with the main character for The Fox and the Devil by Kirsten White. Anike Van Helsing, I think was her first name. As you were following her, she's chasing the woman who killed her father. And no one believes her that this woman existed. And she's smarter than everyone. She's a better forensic investigator than all the detectives. That's why they call her in. And that's why I couldn't deal with her. Also, I get the lore behind vampires. That in some cases, they can compel you to like fall in love with them or be, do their bidding. But it's been a few years now. There's been distance. But yeah, this woman haunts her dreams every night. She's obsessed with this woman. And she already was obsessed with this woman. So there's nothing for us to understand except magic, I guess, that she was compelled within this one brief glance of looking at this woman. And that the vampire, because it's supposed to be some sort of twisted love story, romance throughout all, the story that we get to. And we're supposed to feel bad for the character eventually. I didn't get that far. I really didn't. Because I couldn't deal with the character. And the fact that she is obsessed with the person who murdered her dad, I didn't see it or feel it. And it didn't make, I couldn't. So, might try it in the audiobook at some point. But for now, no. And also I was really eyeballing The Stars Undying, like seeing it on my desk, wanting to pick it up. And so I DNF'd that one. And it's been a few days and I haven't quite made it to page 200. And now I'm starting to worry about this one too. And it is my fault a little bit for going into it thinking it might be like something else. And it wasn't even that it was described as really being like that. It just was, somebody had commented that when they'd read a different book more recently, that it gave them the feels of The Stars Undying. Like it had that, brought up the same similar feelings as reading that book. And I'm like, oh yay, now I really do want to get to that one. Yes, but we're not updating about that one yet because I'm still reading it. I'm just not sure at the moment that my level of enjoyment is going to be what I thought it was, and that's sad. Well, March's wrap-up is going swimmingly, obviously. Now I've finished 2 books that I'm going to tell you about, but I finished one. I DNF'd one, and then I was so excited to start The Stars Undying by Emery Robin. I think I put too much on this book. I had it in my head that I was going to get this from it, and I have not. And it's also very, very slow. It's very political, and thus very, very slow. And I think that I have not fully given up. I want to see what's going to happen because I'm not entirely sure. I didn't know going into this either that this was supposed to be a Cleopatra and Julius Caesar. I didn't know that. But I read some of the reviews trying to get the feel if I was going to keep going. That did not help with my decision making, but everybody was saying that and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess I see it. But also, knowing that means that the ending will be with everybody dead, probably. But I mean, okay, it's inspired by it, but it doesn't have to be a direct retelling, right? Moved on, though, because I did get an audiobook, because this is only physical, and it was dragging, and I spent a whole week not sitting down to be able to read, or not reading, I don't know what to think about it. But I read Deadbeat by Jim Butcher, so we will say that that was the sequel that I needed instead of Long Past Dues, which I do feel bad about. Back to Deadbeat, though. This one was interesting. It dealt with Harry having to go up against necromancers, like more than one. Not that they were working together, though. They were all kind of working against each other to find this thing, to pull off this giant thing. And oh my gosh, I really enjoyed this one. It was a fun time. It was an easy read, and it was just back to the magical shenanigansness, and also Harry learning a bit about himself, a bit. We got somebody else into the fold that was immortal. He is a morgue doctor, whatever you want to call it in technical terms or whatever. But he helped Harry figure out something about himself, and his name is Butters. He has a first name, I'm sure, but he is Butters, and that was amazing to hear it be called Butters throughout the whole thing. And Dinnaman. Did Dinnaman do the play on Tina in Dungeon Crawler Carl from Dresden Files? Because I'm pretty sure both the T-Rexes were named Tina. Unless I'm misremembering that now. There's a question there. But yes, there is a T-Rex involved. It comes towards the end, but yes. Dresden has to earn this bit of respect from Morgan, kind of begrudgingly. And there's this whole thing with Morgan too, where Morgan, just sees red when Dresden's around because he never believes anything good about Harry, which got, him roped in again. It's been a while since we've seen Morgan. And also I realized that in my brain I had kind of confused Morgan and Michael and blended them together since it's been so long since I read the original books. And also his fallen angel in his coin head thing. That was creepy. That was not great. And we'll have to see how that plays out now. Lashio? I think she was called Lashio. We will see how that plays out because things happened. But we should not really say anything else about it because this is book 7. So we can't spoil it for everybody, but it was another really good read. I did enjoy it very much. I was editing through the wrap-up yesterday, so I know where I stopped, but I no longer remember what the last thing I actually said was. But I read Cytonic as the next book that I read and finished, and it was a 3.5 stars, and it was actually a very fun time. I did have fun with it. It's just that it wasn't like blow me away amazing. Maybe it was a little bit too long. This is the 3rd book, though, in the Skyward Flight series, or the Skyward series, following Spensa, who is, I don't remember how old, 18, 19, 20? She's an age, and in the first book, her dream is to become a fighter pilot on her planet. Okay, I kept reading it as detritus. I don't know that that's the right way to pronounce it. But she wants to become a fighter pilot to be part of their air defense force because they have to live underground, as there's an alien species that kind of maintains a flight thing around the top of their planet, and they are constantly, the fighter pilots go out and keep them from being destroyed because they will bomb the surface of the planet, so they can't really live above the planet. But the humans are not originally from this planet. They crash landed there a few generations ago, I think, or several generations ago. Spensa, though, can't become a pilot, or at least it's very odds against her situation because her father was a fighter pilot. And something happened and he kind of went rogue. They think she has that bad mental state too, where she will turn against her flight mates as well, and everything will just go wrong. And so the first book is all about her going to flight school, becoming part of the team, getting friends for kind of the first time because she's always been an outcast since her dad did that thing when she was really little. You find out things, you get to learn a little bit of things, and she gets a ship, obviously, as she is in her fighter pilot kind of outfit here. You see the helmet, and we look like we're on space. Her ship, I'm going to go ahead and say it, is named Mbot, and he is a wonderful character. I love Mbot, and this book specifically, I have to say that because this is Spensa and Mbot in a whole new place again. Every single book, they've been in a new place. And this one reads more as like an adventure quest story, at least to me. These are YA, so I don't know, I'm not going to say it's typical YA or anything, because what is typical YA these days? But it's a little bit lighter on like heavy elements, I suppose. You did get to see kind of some growing up, though, mostly because Spensa is witnessing things here in this location that she's at, and with Mbot, and just character growth is happening, and that's good. But we also learn a little bit more about one of the big bads of this universe that they're in. But overall, I enjoyed it. Could it have been a little shorter? Yeah, I think I'm starting to feel that way with most Sanderson books, but I don't know. It could just be a few. But it just did feel like it drug a little bit there, and we had very similar scenes pop up, and it wasn't that it progressed anything along at that point in time. Then to replace the mystery book that I was supposed to have, that I didn't actually pick a good mystery candidate for this anyway, but I got Spellbound by Murder by Stacey Ramey, as an audiobook from my library because under the mystery section, it was available. Lo and behold, it actually came out in March too. And I felt really bad. I was like, I didn't even include this on my weekly new releases because I don't know, either I didn't see it or I skipped over it or I didn't think it sounded up my alley then, and then I listened to the whole book. Was it really up my alley? Was it great? I think listening to it on audiobook is going to be the way to go for most people, though. It was a 3.5 star. The narrator was decent because she did do different-ish voices for everybody. She did do that, so. No, there was only 2 characters that sometimes I wouldn't be sure which one it was actually talking, especially when they're in the same room. But this book, though, its comp titles were Charmed and Gilmore Girls. Your main character is Veronica, who is moving her teenage daughter from Florida up to Mystic Hollow, Connecticut. And you know what? I didn't know her name was Veronica, I feel like, until I read it in the description. I mean, I'm sure it said it in the book. It probably said it more than once. But for some reason, reading it in the description, it really was a shock. Because I had to go to the Goodreads description to get that for the review that I wrote. And so I was like, her name was Veronica? That's a bad sign. However, it's totally from her point of view. She moved up there, though, because her grandmother had hurt herself and she needed help running her bookshop. And then they get there, and her grandma, which they call Gran, is seemingly fine. She's moving around really fast. She's still very spry. And then the bookshop is kind of run down and needs to be some spruced up. After they arrive, things start looking better almost overnight. And the magically elements start appearing. And then an author is murdered because they were running a little town festival kind of to raise money for the town and the bookshop. And they invited authors and to do interviews and speak and stuff like that. And he ends up dead. And Veronica, of course, is the prime suspect. The magically elements, it comes into play kind of early on. I'd already forgotten, I guess, that Charmed was... Actually, I'd probably already forgotten both of the comp titles by the time it started. And I'm like, is it? Or is she losing her mind? That was a question for a minute. But it was magic. And the Gilmore Girls aspect. Veronica is Lorelai. In her head, it is... Things are going a mile a minute, and she's constantly bringing up her ADHD. Is this actually a thing, or are we stereotyping? I can't say. But she ran on coffee. Coffee was her happy thing, and chocolate, but mostly coffee. It was a little bit much sometimes. I will give it that. And her daughter Phoebe, the Rory character, but not quite to where sometimes Rory would get annoying. But interesting time, definitely all the vibes there. Definitely straight comparisons. Now, I do say that I think audiobook was the way to go based off some of the other reviews I saw where they said reading it and the way the sentences were structured and the book was structured, and they're like, this is just... Could they have all been like ARC reviews and things were better edited in the final copy? Maybe. Now, my book's still in progress. So I spent most of the month trying to finish this book, and it did make me feel bad that I didn't give Rings of Fate another shot, and also that I hadn't picked up this book like all month either until Monday. I picked it up Monday because I'm like, why do I keep giving this one a shot and I won't give this one a chance? I actually technically restarted the audiobook on this one, and I finished book 1. I finished book 1, and I didn't tell you about this one either, but okay. Book 1 of Gardens of the Moon by Steven Erikson. Finally done. I don't know how to feel about this. I'm still kind of very confused. I get the politicalness, but it is also super descriptive and kind of slow in the way that it goes into all the details. And it feels like we are actually spending a whole day. Like when it's a whole day, it feels like you spent that whole day with those people. Unlike how, shows, it feels, or other books, sometimes we go to the different time periods, we go to the different events. No, this one feels like we're there, even though it spanned about 2 years, I think. Well, there was a time jump. Going to keep going, and I think it worked a little bit better on the second listen to, but now we have to take a break, of course, to start some of our Aurelian books. I don't know that I want to DNF it. I don't know. This one is super politically and just so slow. Where that one is slow in the details and it feels like you spent the whole day. This one feels like it is purposely slow and adding all these words and almost, it's not pretentious, but I mean, maybe. And it's just, I don't know. And it's just so much scheming and I feel like something cool is going to happen. So I keep trying and kept waiting. And it's like the cool thing's going to happen. Because I mean, they have this computer that was a person and like they downloaded their memories into it. And now it's worshipped as a god. And also it was like the emperor at one point in time of like the universe. There could be such cool things, but slow. And relationships, and I am seeing now where maybe the feelings in the relationship between one of the main characters and this other side character that would, be the Marcus Aurelius, right? Where that I'm seeing that kind of happening in the background a little bit, just a little bit, because she is still kind of with the Julius character at the moment. So I wanted to love this book, and I keep trying. Just very slowly. I manage like maybe 2 chapters a day when I pick it up. And by then I'm just kind of ready to go on to my next task of the day. And that's not how you should feel with the book. And I don't know when I'm going to try to read some more of it. I don't know what this is. It could be the regular subscription, or it could be my pre-order because it released in March. So you'd think it would have delivered, but it only feels like one book. So let's open it and figure out which of the 2 books it is. Oh, they changed it. Look at that. Okay, so this is the subscription. Where is my pre-order? Because I have seen some people get it and I want it. We are born, we are shadows. We cast shadows of our own, and then we are gone. All anyone can hope for is to be remembered 2 shadows deep. In a ruined and hostile landscape, in a future few have been unlucky enough to survive, a community exists in a giant underground silo. Inside, men and women live in an enclosed life full of rules and regulations. To live, you must follow the rules, but some don't. These are the dangerous ones. These are the people who dare to hope and dream, and who infect others with their optimism. Their punishment is simple and deadly. They are allowed outside. The cat has laid down on the waffle paper, but she's not moving, so hopefully this will not be loud. That's everything though that I read in March. I'd love to know what you guys read. Hopefully they all turned out okay. You didn't have any DNFs or soft DNFs. I hope you're having a wonderful day, finding something great to read. You'll subscribe if you haven't yet, and come back for the next video.